Hello everyone, this is Supersnoopy here, back with another SWTOR plug video. Today I have guys another SWTOR plug discussion video. In today's discussion video, we're just going to be going over my thoughts and opinions on the Nathema Flashpoint, which could also be described as essentially the very end to the Knights of the Fallen Empire and the Knights of the Eternal Throne story. So I do hope you guys enjoy this very basic SWTOR plug discussion video. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, then make sure to leave a like. And if you guys want some gaming mints, then check the link in the description down below, Catalytic Gaming Mints. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys in this discussion. Alrighty guys, let's just jump into it right now. So obvious spoilers for the story so far in Star Wars Republic. But essentially, what we saw with this Flashpoint is Theron Shan. It looks like he was a double agent, and he was actually helping us this whole time to foil a plan to revive Xildrog. And Xildrog is a machine, kind of like Beast, that was hidden on Nathema by, Emperor Valkorion. And essentially, it's a super weapon that can destroy a bunch of stuff. So, obviously, pretty bad, if you can't already tell. But obviously this Flashpoint was us just going through different stuff, just trying to stop this person and organization, and of course defeating Xildrog, the machine itself. Now, once again, this Flashpoint does feel like the conclusion to the story, and it feels like they are going to try to go back to Republic versus Imp, just as they have actually said in interviews, just in general for Star Wars Republic and just what they've mentioned. So I think, in my opinion, just for the way that it concluded, I think that it was pretty good with what they had. I think, in general, I feel like they needed some way to finish up the story, and this was kind of like their Flashpoint to do so. Obviously, the conclusion wouldn't be like a crazy epic. We weren't like seeing some crazy conclusion with like an Operation Boss Fight or something with Xildrog. As much as I really hoped that would be the case. But this was kind of like a way to really just tie up all the loose ends and kind of like get away from this whole entire story. Because I feel like, especially with this story with Knights of the Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne, there is kind of like a disconnect. Or not really a disconnect, but I feel like it is kind of like separated from all the other aspects of the game. And I think BioWare realized that, and that there were some complaints with the story. So they do want to really just take it back to that OG Old Republic vibe. Now, I think just with the Flashpoint itself, I haven't done Master Mode just yet, but they do have a lot of potential. It's still obvious that they have a lot of special boss mechanics and things to really just work with. And I think that's always very good with a game when you have a bunch of boss mechanics to actually, do so, just to continue to make all these interesting, boss fights and all that different stuff. That's always very useful and very nice to actually see. But I mean, if one thing's for sure, and I'm pretty sure I've actually said this in multiple discussions, I think just seeing these boss mechanics does definitely get me hyped, because it is obvious that BioWare can still make some really quality boss fights and just make some content that can be a little bit more difficult. But if we are just talking about the solo aspect, I did think it was a little bit disappointing with how easy it was. I do hope that they do start to make some of these solo things a bit more difficult than how they've normally been. For example, I think something that is really nice with the Knights of the Fallen Empire chapters is how, they have the Master Mode chapters. Now, they don't need to be tuned like that badly, but I feel like, if they could like raise difficulty as you go through like a progression just in the story stuff, I feel like that would be pretty cool with what they have. Just a slight suggestion, probably won't happen. But I think this Flashpoint did get a lot done, and I think it got what its main goal was, which obviously was to just conclude the story. I think this was just their way of kind of like closing everything very quickly, just able to do so in Flashpoint form. And then when you replay, you don't have to have anything, or you can just kind of play it and not have to worry too much about all the crazy story elements, because you can just do that in the solo mode. And, I mean, yeah, that's just really the main thing with this whole entire Flashpoint in general, is I think between the three that they made, like Critisan and Barra, the Caparo Flashpoint, I think between, like, these three, this is by far the best Flashpoint that they actually released, just in this three, things, just to tie everything up. This really had, in my opinion, the most action, just the most kind of, like, story details. I think this is a perfect example of, kind of incorporating a good story, just a way to conclude something up, while also, of course, just getting your point across, and also just being a Flashpoint itself. Because, like I said, I mean, a lot of people will obviously play for the Flashpoint because, like I said, new group content, but it's smart, and I think it is fair just with how they actually balanced it. And that is something that has been always very good, just in general with this game, at least in my opinion. Especially this good example would be like the Dread Ops, because that was like a perfect example of, balancing the operation boss fights, but also balancing the story elements so you can kind of like keep attached to it and kind of figure out what's going on. Now, I think besides looking at the Flashpoint, my overall thoughts of this whole entire story of Knights of the Fallen Empire, Eternal Throne, and the Flashpoint tying in, I think it was fairly well done with what they did. There were quite a few parts that I felt like were a bit rushed, or, some plot points that I felt like dragged on a bit too long. But I feel like overall with just these expansions, definitely if you just want to play through one time, I think it is definitely worth it. There's a lot of good story elements and stuff, but at the same time there is quite a bit of downtime just when it comes down to just a story in general. But as always, just with a story, you can't always have just like action and stuff happening 24/7. But that is something right there. I think that with how the expansion worked, they did do a good job with it. But there are of course gonna be some cons to it. Like I said, obviously some downtime. I felt like there could be a little less of that. I feel like there's a couple cliches here and there, and all that different stuff. But then again, I'm not the game critic, but I will admit obviously there are some stuff here and there that I feel like do kind of like I say are kind of like worthy of some criticism. But I think in general, this expansion, just these Flashpoint stuff, I think that they were really well executed. And I think it is a good way to just really tie in everything without being too fast about it. Because I'm being like completely honest, is I am pretty impressed that with this final Flashpoint, they were able to just finish all the things just in one go. Essentially just completing the Traitor story arc, completing the Zildrock story arc. It's like finishing everything up. I think they did a good job at tying it in. Like I said, it was a little faster than I wanted also, but like I said, with what they had and what they were working with, just to complete it all in that Flashpoint, definitely have to give props to that. But honestly, that's going to be it for this Star Wars Pro discussion video. It's me going over the Nathema Flashpoint. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.